Alright guys, so today you are going to begin drafting your literary essay. You are going to need to grab a couple of things in order to get ready to write. Your ELA notebook, your course guide, and then you need to decide where are you going to start your draft. Are you going to handwrite it in your ELA notebook or are you going to actually start typing it up in a Word doc? Make your choice and get ready to start your draft now. I know we talked a little bit about this last week, but it's really important that we think about beginning with the end in mind when it comes to starting the writing process for our literary essay. We've been talking about all of these things quite a bit, but I want to highlight a few key things. Remember, your rubric went out last week, and there are going to be 4 parts to your rubric that you guys are going to be thinking through. Each part has three different levels to it, okay? The first level is a fantastic level, meaning that you are owning those pieces of that rubric. The next part is good and great, and you're getting started with it. And the last one is that you are working on that particular part of the rubric. The 4 key things that we are going to talk about are developing inferences. That's what we've been working most on right now, the inference that turns into a thesis. Then, this is what we're going to be working on this week. You're going to be kind of graded on how do you organize the evidence to support your thesis. The next thing that you are going to be graded on is how you do with the drafting of your actual literary essay. And then the last piece of this is how you are going to do on the revising and editing part. Look at key things here that distinguish the fantastic rating from the great rating and the great rating from the working on rating. These things are going to be how I grade you for your final product, and you'll see that I'll go through a rubric for each and every one of you and kind of circle where you land for that part of the writing process. So how do you start? How do you start drafting your literary essay? Well, the first thing is to do just that, start. And how you do that is by writing, and then writing some more. Utilize the pre-writing stuff in your ELA notebooks and through your course guide that we already have, specifically that thesis breakdown and the outline stuff from your course guide. Make sure you have your ELA notebook and your course guide out. I envision you guys having your ELA notebook out and whatever you choose to draft with out and your course guide out, and kind of going back and forth between those 3 things. Remember as you begin to draft your literary essay that all of your literary essays need to have an introduction paragraph. You will need to put the author, you, and the title of your literary essay on the top of your literary essay. You're going to need to have a theme that your thesis statement is all about. You're going to need to have body paragraphs, and inside of those body paragraphs, you're going to have evidence, quotes, examples, and paraphrases from the text. You're going to have your conclusion paragraph that restates the theme or the thesis, and don't forget your literary essay is going to need to have a title. That's what so many people forget to include. So before you start drafting your own literary essay, I want us to look at a sample paper, a sample literary essay on Charlotte's Web. In Charlotte's Web, E.B. White, by E.B. White, a pig named Wilbur gets a chance of a life thanks to a little girl named Fern and a spider named Charlotte. The author shows that a real friendship will help you even if he or she has nothing to gain from doing so. Now let's stop and just look at that introduction paragraph a second. Look at the literary essay has a title that includes the name of the book, and the title is italicized. I'm going to be looking for that too. In the introduction paragraph, the writer provides a short summary of the book. Did you see that summary feel here? It was only a couple sentences long. And then, in the introductory paragraph, the writer shares a theme or a big idea from the book. This right here is the thesis of this literary essay sample paper. A real friendship will help you even if he or she has nothing to gain from it. Okay? So let's go into the first body paragraph here. Throughout the book, Charlotte is always willing to help Wilbur. She spins the words into her web that will save Wilbur's life, even though spinning the words is tiring and difficult for her. Charlotte is a true friend. Notice how this theme from the thesis in the introduction comes back up here. And she helps Wilbur for one reason only, because she cares about him. Again, the theme is connected to the thesis here. The writer gives an example that illustrates the theme. This is an example right here. And the writer provides details about this example. This is taken from the context clues here. This is evidence from the text that supports the writer's thesis. Let's keep going. Templeton, the rat, on the other hand, is not a real friend to Wilbur. Templeton is only willing to lend a hand when there is something in it for him. When he is asked to help save Wilbur's life, he refuses at first by saying, "Let him die," and then later on he agrees to pitch in, but only because he wants something from it. He wants to keep eating Wilbur's meals. What I love about this second body paragraph is that the writer gives a second example that illustrates the theme, but this particular example is a counter-argument, meaning it is the opposite of what the writer is trying to say in his or her thesis statement, and it shows that a counter-argument exists, but it only deepens the theme or the actual thinking that the writer is trying to prove here. So she says, Charlotte is a good friend, Templeton is not, and here's why. The writer provides details about the example from the text inside of this paragraph here. You guys are going to need to do the same thing. This week you're going to learn how to include the counter argument in your essay, as well as give an example from the text. Here's the last body paragraph. At the end of the book, Wilbur shows that he has learned the true meaning of friendship. He helps Charlotte by taking her egg sack back to the barn where he knows the babies will be safe, and he does this deed for non-selfish reasons. Connection back to the theme, but out of concern for his friend. The writer gives a third example that illustrates the theme and provides an example for that. Now here's where it all comes home. In the conclusion, in Charlotte's Web, the author shows that a real friend will help you even if he or she has nothing to gain from doing so. Notice how the author restates the thesis statement. Reading this book made me realize how important it is to help others. Being a good friend means being there when you are needed. The writer explains what the theme means to him or her. I highly encourage that you guys do the same thing. This is a great example of putting a personal touch on an essay.